Everyone, thank you for being patient. We will be starting in 5. Hello everyone. Firstly, I will be giving a brief intro about Hack Oktoberfest in case you have missed the prior sessions. So, Hack Oktoberfest is a month-long celebration of open source software run by DigitalOcean, which invites everyone in the global community to contribute to the open source world. Hack Oktoberfest encourages giving back something to the open source community. It is considered as one of the biggest open source festivals. We at Hackslash Developers Club have come up with this 1 week long beginner friendly amazing workshops as a part of this extravaganza. Today is the fifth day of Hack Oktoberfest 2021. For the past 4 days, we have been learning different things about different web technologies, including UI UX designing, Git and GitHub, web development, machine learning, and I hope that you people must have enjoyed those sessions and got many new things to learn. Today is the fifth. Today is the fifth session, and today's session is on mobile development. Srijan Sovit and I, Tanvi Dana, co-coordinators at Team Nougat, would be volunteering this session and help you people to learn, explore the domain of mobile development, Android, and other stuff. So, without any further delay, we should start. These are our topics of discussion for today. We would be discussing about what are mobile applications, about their future as a career option, mobile development as a career option, their classification, and what are the factors to be considered for developing a brilliant app idea. Also, at last, we will be having an hands-on session to make you guys familiar with the IDE. Before starting mobile development, firstly we must have a clear understanding of what mobile application actually is. So here we go. Uh, we all are using various mobile applications on a daily basis. While defining it, I will say that it is just a software, it is just a program created to run on mobile, tablet, and other devices, as mobile has its own operating system. It is an interface to communicate with the mobile operating system to perform simple to complex tasks. It is the same as the program which runs on our computer, but the way it works on our mobile is a bit different. As for example, for Android operating system, these file comes in .epk files. While if any one of you would have used iOS, then these files are in .app files. Whereas on our personal computers, laptops, they come in .exe file. So this is how it works differently. Today, today the mobile phone has become an inseparable part of our life. Mobile apps have spread out to each and every domain, like uh, social media, online shopping, photo enhancement, office productivity, travel apps, health, and much more. They are uncountable. When it comes to mobile apps, the opportunities are endless, especially for the creative types who have the skill and training to make today's daydreams tomorrow's reality. So, learning mobile development could be very useful. Can we have the next slide? Yes. So, smartphones are considered to be one of the greatest invention of 21st century. This has led to rapid development in mobile technology. But with this invention also comes the competition among various mobile apps. Lately, it is considered that uh, on Google Play Store presently there are 2.79 million apps, and this number is always going to go up. So, learning mobile development could be of much use to us. Mobile apps also are a boon for business. It provides more value to the customer and builds a stronger network. With business can have a better reach to its customer. This boosts the profit to the company, and business has much more control in their hands. So it is a boon for businesses. Our next topic is that why to choose mobile development as a career option. If you're passionate about coding and development, then mobile development is a must try for you. It has got amazing opportunities as discussed earlier and will also help you collaborate on good projects. So learning this could be very useful. Here are some points which might catch your eye, and you might learn Android mobile development. Firstly, career opportunities. A lot of a lot of career opportunities are there. Mobile development comes with a lot of freelancing opportunities. If you search on GitHub for Android or Flutter or Dart, then you would see that there are millions of repositories available where we can contribute. Shrijan, can we have GitHub?
Yeah, sure. So I have my GitHub open and I'll be searching Android in front of you guys only. Here you can see we have more than 1 million results on Android as repositories. So it shows that for open sourcing, Android is something which has been being used very frequently. And also like for Flutter, I'll show you guys. So for Flutter also we have this much of results, 301470 repository results. So it shows that we have so many repositories, and for open sourcing or freelancing, it is being these technologies are being used so frequently. So that's all. And Tanvi, you can continue further.
Yes, yes. So we just saw the open source opportunities here. Continuing with that, slides. Yes. The second point is highest paying technology. iOS and Android development are the most demanding technology these days. Also, there are much less app developers in comparison to web developers, so it is more high paying. Third point, documentation. With mobile development, you have great help available online. The Stack Overflow community is also very established in mobile development. Apart from all these, there are detailed official documentation available. Can we have the documentation?
Yeah, sure. So searching for document official documentations, like for Android, for Java documentation, I have searched and I'll open just in front of you guys. So as you can see, the official documentation opens, and there are various things about how we can get started or how we can make our projects. The main thing is the guide section, in which in the left panel you can see how you can actually get started if you don't have any knowledge in this domain. So like in the build your first app overview, so how you can build your apps actually, how you can install things, how to create an Android project. Well, very beautiful documentation. You have the written things as well as the photos, the images, so you can follow these along in order to get started, how to run your apps and these things. So this was for Java, and similarly for Kotlin as well. I'll show you guys. So in the same way, for Kotlin also, actually Kotlin is the official programming language declared by Google for Android development. So obviously you will find a detailed and very good documentation on it for developing Android apps. So here you go again on the left panel, still about basics in Kotlin, learning the Kotlin language, and things like Android Studio. Yes, you can download it from here as well. You can get the option what it is actually. The images are. You can get a brief overview, the detail about it. React Native documentation. This is another technology. So just like React, we have documentation. We have also for React Native. So you can find here the how the components can be used, the native, the core components, React fundamentals required, like components, CSS, props, state, and different things like environment setup for running your React Native app, Expo CLI, React Native CLI, things like these, running in terminal. So these are the things. And lastly, coming to Flutter. So this is the official site of Flutter. where you have a brief overview about the Flutter, how you can get started and like that. Uh, if I click on Get Started button, you can see that the steps are given how you can install it for a particular operating system, how you can set up an editor, you can and different kinds of things like building a web app, all those things. I go in docs section, you get here different things used in Flutter like widgets, APIs. In widgets also we have different kinds of things like assets and all material UI. All these are given in detail. Text is given, so you can always refer here and get started. As well as when you are doing a project, and if you get stuck, you can refer here always. So you have all the detailed documentation of all these technologies which is related to the mobile. Tanvi, you can continue from here.
So yes, the documentations are quite detailed, and even someday if you get stuck, then most probably you will get help. Coming on to classification, mobile applications can be divided into native apps and hybrid apps on the basis of development. We will be explaining in detail what native and hybrid apps basically are and majorly their differences. Native apps. Native app is a software program developed for use on a specific platform or device only. That is, we are developing an app either for Android or iOS at once. This is not the case for hybrid application. For hybrid application, we don't need to write separate code for iOS, Android devices, Windows, and other OS. So we are developing an application only at once for either Android or iOS. There are many benefits to this, as native app is built for use in a specific application and its operating system. It is capable of using device-specific hardware and software, such as microphone, camera, GPS, device storage, etc. And since they are developed for a specific platform, a specific particular kind of device, it gives its best performance. Next slide. Yes. Here are the advantages to native app development. Best performance. As native app development is created only for a specific platform, it gives high performance. The app are very fast and are responsive, quite responsive as they are built for specific platform only. Second, more secure. Creating a native app is a guarantee to protect users' reliable data. If security is one of the most important factors, then native app should come in consideration. More interactive. The most advantageous benefit to native app is that it has superior user experience. It is created for a specific operating system, and as a result of this, the flow is quite natural and the UI fits better. Full features. With native app development, the developers can assess full features, hardware and software features such as GPS, camera, microphone, and so they are faster in execution. Fewer bugs during development. With native apps, we are developing application for a specific platform. So even if a bug is found, then it's easier to sort for one kind of platform than considering all the platforms at once. So there are less possibility of bugs, and even if there are bugs, then it's easier to solve. High speed. As designed for specific platform, they function using the device built-in features, which makes them very fast. Next slide. Yes, every coin has two sides, and so has native applications. Here are the limitations to native apps. First, increase team size. So for native application, we have separate code bases for Android, iOS, and other OS. So the effort gets increased. We need separate developers for each platform. The team size gets increased and the effort is increased. Second, increased budget. The the overall cost involved in the development and maintenance of native app is higher. This is due to the fact that there should be separate versions of the same application. Third, time consuming. Since native apps are developed for multiple platforms, it requires more time. Developers of native apps take time to write codes for specific OS, specific operating system. Next slide. Yes, technology is used in native app development. For native app development in Android, we usually use Android Studio as IDE. Languages can either be Java or Kotlin. Android Studio is an IDE which comes with amazing features such as emulator, logcat messages. Also, designing in XML becomes easier. We will be having at a session at last where we'll be showing these features, some of the features. Next slide. For iOS development, we have Objective-C and Swift, and we use Xcode as an IDE. Although iOS development is not something beginner friendly and also not preferable. This is because of the low demand for iOS development in India. From here onwards, I would request Srijan to continue. Srijan?
Yeah, I hope my voice is clearly.
Yes, you are clear.
Okay. So thanks, Tanvi, for all the information that you have given till now. So coming to hybrid apps, what are actually hybrid apps? So these are the mobile apps for which we write just a single code base. Just we write the code just once, and it will be able to run on different platforms using that single code base only. Those different platforms can be either Android, iOS, and also like web or Windows or other operating system. So hybrid apps are actually mobile applications that are installed on the device just like any other app. What differentiates them from the native app is that the web apps especially, which are not installed on a device but are rather used on the internet via a browser. So actually, hybrid apps are deployed in a native container that uses a mobile web view object. And when the app is used, the object displays the web content with the use of web technologies, that is CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. So it is in fact displaying the web pages from a desktop website that are adopted to a web view display. And the web content can either be displayed as soon as the app is opened or for certain parts of the app only. And in order to access a device's hardware features like accelerometer, camera, contacts, for which the native apps are actually built, the hybrid apps make use of the native elements for each of the platform's user interfaces. Okay, so coming to the advantages of hybrid apps. So as you have been told in the disadvantages of the native apps regarding the budgets. So suppose you have a team which is developing a product. So you need not just one team, you'll need at least two teams, like for Android also, for iOS also, to develop a single app product. And public in general will also expect that the app which you bring into the market should run for all the different platforms. So you cannot give excuse that no, this app runs only for Android. So you have to go for all developing the app for all the platforms, and all the teams should be in synchronicity. So that is where the costs rise because of hiring of more teams, and development process gets delayed because you have to check both for Android on Google Play Store and also for iOS on Apple App Store. Things get complicated as you have to check for both the versions of the app, and also it takes time. So if in case you use hybrid apps for your app development, what happens? You are writing the code just for a single time. So you can get all the debugging things done just for once, and the app will be ready to run on different platforms. So your cost, the hiring team cost would be controlled, and the development process will also be smooth. Okay, so coming to good user experience, actually, the native apps have pretty good user experience than the hybrid apps, but hybrid apps have adopted themselves by using different technologies like material UI kind of things, which actually give pretty good user experience, not as good as the native apps, but yeah, you won't say that no, it's not looking like an app, so I won't use it. They give a good kind of user experience. So coming to the third one, as you have been already told that only you will write the code just once and it will run on different platforms, so it's a biggest advantage of it. Fourth is the easy availability of resources. As I have shown you, you have the availability of the different softwares like Flutter, React Native. You can download it easily and run on your computer, install it, and then start coding. And also while coding, you can refer to the documentations, the different documentations, the Stack Overflow community. So the resources are available and you can easily get started and do your things in hybrid apps. Okay, it also has some disadvantages, like it doesn't give that native like feel in user interface. Actually what happens, the you write the code just once, which will be compiled for different platforms. So what happens, it does not actually get so close to the native app thing in its user interface or in its appearance. Like I can tell you about in Flutter, what happens, it uses the approach of gaming engines, which get hold of the pixels of your screen and then render their images, the graphics. So Flutter uses that same concept, be it any kind of screen, any kind of platform, be it iOS or Android, it will get hold of the screen pixels and then render its UI, be it Cupertino or Material UI. So in both the operating systems, you will get the same feel that the app is looking like same with Flutter. And also some like in React Native. But so you will miss that feel that it is not an iOS app, it is not an Android app. So this is one thing that lacks. Second thing is that since these hybrid app technologies are not so close to the metal, close to the platforms, they have difficulty in exploiting a particular platform's capabilities in full. You will have to take help of different kinds of plugins and packages to use these. So this is one disadvantage, and still then it cannot exploit that in full. And that's why since you have to install so many plugins and packages, it gets in slower performance, and transition between different pages gets a bit slow as compared to native apps. And fourth thing regarding web apps, when it will be running on the web, you will be running it on your browser, like for instance Google Chrome. So even if your app is is fast in general, it might happen that your browser speed is not good. So what the feel you will get that your app is actually not running as fast as it should be, but that's not the case. So it gets some dependency on the browser speed, which is actually not good because different people would have different browser speed as as compared to each other, depending upon their systems. So they all would have different experience with your app. Okay, so coming to the different technologies used in hybrid app development. Earlier, there have been different technologies like Xamarin and Ionic, but they could not be so successful because they could not exploit the native elements of the particular platform. Uh, Two of these have survived pretty well and have been successful. The first one is React Native, and the second is Flutter. React Native is actually developed and maintained by Facebook. Many successful apps have been made using React Native, like Facebook, Shopify, Tableau, Instagram, Flipkart, Discord, Tesla, and Pinterest also. So it has been quite successful in making hybrid apps. What actually React Native does, you will write the code in JavaScript, then it has some concept of bridge, using which it compiles the code into the native elements, like for Android and for iOS. And those code which have been compiled for different platforms will get rendered for those particular platforms. So this is the logic that React Native uses. And in Flutter, I told you about how it renders its images. Actually, Flutter is a software development kit which is developed by Google recently only around 2019. Um, it is an SDK which is used to develop cross-platform apps. So actually Flutter makes use of Dart language, which is very close to JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, you don't need to bother much about Dart. So we write the code in Dart and we use the Flutter SDK to render things like widgets, and like everything in Flutter is a widget, like the text, the app bar you see, the icons you see, the button you see, all things are widgets. So Flutter makes use of these widgets and Material UI especially to make these apps which are quite helpful, which you won't find in React Native. So this is how Flutter works. So these were some technologies, and Flutter you will find apps made by Google only, like Google Assistant and Google Ads. So coming to our next topic, what are important things which you should consider before building an application? So obviously you should have these points. Like first is the audience. Obviously, if you are developing an app, you should keep in mind what are the target audience you are going to hit. Because if you don't know whom you are going to target as your audience, how you can think about the concept of the app, the features which you will be including in your app, and how to how many people your app can reach. So obviously you should consider the first audience. Second thing is the concept. um, the concept means what kind of problem you are solving with the help of your app, because in market we already have many kinds of app available. Why should one use your app? So you should have a pretty solid concept. It should solve some existing problem which hasn't been solved by other apps, so that people can find it very good to use and get attracted to it. Third thing is the design, and design also plays a very important role. Design uh, uh, design makes that appearance of the app, and also like placement of the buttons and all kinds of things, like what things would placed close to the user's thumb and all those things. So you should have a good design so that user finds it very handy and easy to use your app, and pretty interactive as well. Fourth is the security. Obviously, when you will be using your app, well, people will be using your app. They'll be giving their data like name, email, password, and all other things depending upon the app. So of course, you should have some kind of security feature for all those information so that they are not leaked over the internet, and someone should not have any kind of illegal access to it, because you are the developer and you are responsible for all the user data. Fifth is the database. We all find that any kind of app glitches that comes, we quickly uninstall an app. So if we want to store some data in an app and then retrieve or fetch that data, it should be done pretty quickly. So we should have a solid database for our app so that the user don't get irritated with the delay of the fetching or storing of data kind of things. And last is the future. You should obviously have a futuristic goal or plan for your app, because you are not developing your app just for now. You are developing it for the future, for the next 2 years or 5 years. So you will have to see what kind of people will use, what concept it will be solving. So that kind of thing you should keep in mind, the future plans. Okay, now get how you can get started with mobile development actually. So throughout this session, we have told you about so many technologies which you can pick up to start your mobile development. So first of all, you should choose any framework or technology like Java, Kotlin, Flutter, or React Native. You can choose others as well, but these four are majorly used these days, and you have good documentation and resources and tutorials available on the internet. So you can easily get started with these four. Okay, once you have chosen your framework, you will have to get used to an IDE. IDE means Integrated Development Environment, through which you will be interacting with your app, with your code base, um, and developing your app, writing your code. So we have one Android Studio developed by IntelliJ IDEA, which is developed especially for Android development only. We have another thing, that VS Code, our universal code editor, but actually it supports React Native and Flutter only, not those Kotlin and Java. And coming to the AVD, which is Android Virtual Device, actually when you write your code on the IDE, at the same time you will need to test it somewhere. So obviously you will be testing on a kind of phone, which you can do with your phone via USB. Or second thing which you can do is testing via Android Virtual Device. It's a kind of virtual phone in your laptop only. It will open just like a phone only, and as you will test your app, it will show the results. Third thing is you should get a UI design finalized for your project, for your app. A good UI design, as I told you, it has got importance. Fourth is you will be needing some kind of backend server for your app. You can choose PHP, Node.js, but obviously it is quite troublesome, especially those who have encountered in web development the things like middleware, JSON Web Token. It's kind of irritating as well. So you can go for Firebase. It does all those authentication kind of things from itself only. We don't need to bother for that. Fifth is the database. Actually, Firebase provides authentication, the server, the storage, and the database, all of them just in Firebase only. So you can opt it for both for your backend and database. No need. You can go for MySQL or things like that. But why should you choose that if you have the Firebase kind of thing already there? And last is you can do your project alone as well, but it doesn't get any kind of joy. So you can collaborate with a team, a club team, or any kind of team, or with your friends on GitHub and get started with your first app or your app project. So now I'll be telling you how to install Android Studio actually. Okay, so opening a new tab. I'll be just googling thing, nothing to do much. Install Android Studio. So you get the official site, just click on it. Yeah, so the official site for Android Studio has opened. It's showing. You can download it from here. My system is Windows 64-bit, so it's showing from prior only. I can just click on it, and it will pop up a window which will show the license terms and all. You can read it if you want. Just agree with it. Click on download, and it will start downloading as you click on save. So I have it installed, so I won't be installing it completely. So this is the step, and nothing more to do. For installing in your computer, just you can do yes and I agree, nothing more than that. You won't be bothered while installing it. It's pretty easy. So I have cancelled it. Okay, so coming to Android Studio, I'll show you guys how it will look if you will open it. So it will give this kind of appearance, not actually in theme, that I will tell you later about it. So on the left side, you will have all the existing projects or recent projects which you have opened, and on the right side actually how to create your project. So first you will have an option of create new project, which will create a new project for your Java or Kotlin. Second, if you have your Flutter SDK installed and configured, saved in environment path variables, you will see that option of creating a new Flutter project as well. Third is you can open an existing project in your computer or laptop. And fourth one is you can get from version control, like you want to collaborate with some project on GitHub, you can, or any other version control system, you can just click on it, paste the link, and it will clone the project by itself and open it in the Android Studio. Okay, so I will be opening an existing project called demo session. Yeah, so the project window is open. So this is the actual window of Android Studio about which I talked. So as you open it, it will give you some tip of that day, some hints about how you can do things in Android Studio. You can ignore it or read it as you would like. So seeing the things in Android Studio, uh, you have here the project structure, the project files and folders up here. So you can see I have opened a Flutter project. It has already an Android and an iOS folder. So whatever I write it will be compiled here for both the platforms and will be rendered on those platforms. And here we have in lib folder a main.dart file, which is the entry point of our app in Flutter. We have our other files and folders as well. And okay, so this is the place where you will be writing, you can write your code, edit it, and you have at the top you have options like any other editor or software, like files, new, open, close project or things like that. All save. In edit you have cut, copy, paste like options. View, here you have different kinds of options like appearance and all that. You can change the theme from here also. You have navigate options to navigate to different kinds of things, like you have like error or things like that, or class or file. In code also you have some things like override methods, implement methods. You don't need to bother much about these. Also just a minute. Here you can see the file open. This is actually the AVD open. These are the files open. This is the run button from which you can run your app. Okay, the main thing which we want to show you is the Android virtual device. So actually I have it open, but I'll show you how to do it. Like this is showing the AVD manager. So once I click it, it will open a window like this, you can see. So these are all the Android virtual devices that are installed on my laptop. You can create a new one or go for existing one. Like for creating a new device, you get options here actually: Pixel XL, Pixel 4a, Pixel 3a XL, and things like that, Nexus. So you can choose any of these. Like if I choose Nexus 5X and click on next, next, and finish, it will be created, added to my virtual devices list. Okay, this is how you add a virtual device to your Android Studio. And here you will have all the list here. Like if I refresh it here, you can see those all are visible. Nexus is also visible. So these all are visible. I can run on any of them. I can run my app on any of them. So actually I have started my app on a emulator, which you can see here. I have started my emulator. So I'll be running my app. So it might take 1 or 2 minutes. Um, till then, I can tell you like uh, at the bottom you have a problem section. Like if you encounter some problem in your code, it will be shown here. The terminal is like any other terminal, like in you have in Git Bash and VS Code. In Dart analysis, you have all the analysis things, the errors, and in run section, it is showing that the app is being run, and as it will launch the app, everything will be shown while developing. Also, the errors will be shown here only, and here it's showing the theme of the Android Studio, which I have installed. You will not see this kind of interface when you open it for the first time. So yeah, you can see it has written there. The app has been built, installed, and the files are being synced to the AVD. And you just saw how it changed from home screen to some kind of white screen. It's actually loading the files into that AVD. Yeah, you can see the app is loaded. So this is a basic Flutter app. Actually, the color is blue, these colors by default, but I have changed them. So this is how you see your app in the AVD, and like you can play along around with it. Like just let me, yeah, this will be good. So okay, primary swatch. Like if I do colors dot blue, and then just I am pressing Control S, you will see reloading option. It's actually the hot reload function. Just see it did it in just 1 second only. It's the hot reload function actually, which allows you to actually edit your app's code and run it, test it with just control save. You don't need to run your app again and again using that run button. That will take a lot of time. As you have seen, it took a minute or two, but you don't need to do so now, especially in Flutter. So this is how it looks, and if I press this button, it is writing that you have pushed the button this many times. Like if I press it again, it's writing 2 3. So this is how you play with your and AVD. Hmm. So this was Android Studio and the AVD part, especially with the Flutter thing. Like I can change the font style as well. I'll show you guys. So it gives the code automation and suggestions as well. So you won't have to mug up things. It will suggest things as you write. Like if I give it 20, just do Control Save. Uh, it is actually increased, but not that much. If I go for 40, you can see it's pretty big. So this was it with respect to Android Studios and the AVD, and especially explaining in Flutter part. Now also in Java, one thing I want to show you, if I open a project, yeah, in Java, things you can connect with the native things like you have here for phone and tablet, or for Wear OS or Android TV. You get a basic kind of templates like these activities. With these activities, you can start creating your app. So these are the various kind of templates: basic activity, bottom navigation activity, empty activity, or Google AdMobs, Google Maps activity. So depending upon the project or thing you're gonna do, you get different kinds of templates upon which you can build your app. If I go for Android TV, you have this kind of template of blank activity. On Wear OS, this kind of thing. Wear OS means you will be wearing like in watch you have thing. So this was it from Android Studios and AVD. That's all. And I would now like Tanvi Tanya to continue from here. That's all. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Slides.
Yeah, just once. One second.
So this was all from our side. Now, if you have any questions, then you can drop it in our chat box.
I can stop sharing my screen now.
Yes, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, okay. We have a question from Sejal. Um, Actually, you can start your Android development in any year, be it in first year or second year. If you start early, it will be good for you because first you so into the roadmaps. So first one is which for
Srijan, you are not perfectly audible. For roadmap, you should first think that which technology you are going to use. We have Java, Kotlin, React Native, Flutter, and others as well. So first you should choose that which thing are you going to pursue, or you should give a try to everyone and then decide. There are advantages to both native and native and hybrid applications. So you should first decide that which one are you going to do. Are there any other questions?
yes. Am I audible, Tanvi?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So Sejal, coming to a question, actually for Android Studio, the processor does not matter so much than does the RAM. Actually, if you have a minimum of 4 GB RAM, then it will be good as you will have your Android Studio can run on your laptop or computer, like not in 2 GB RAM. That's the disadvantage. In 4 GB, it will run a bit slow. Mine is 8 GB, so it was running pretty good that you can bear with. You can also go with i3 processor, but you have i5, then it's good. Uh,
Yes, for to run an emulator on your laptop, you must have an 8 GB RAM. But if you're not using the emulator, then the 4 GB RAM will also do good.
then it's pretty good. You have 8 GB i5 processor. You can actually start from today or tomorrow only your Android development journey.